effect whatsoever on ultraviolet, cosmic rays, and so on. Nothing.
Do I look
Okay.
do I look more
First of
spookier?
all, ultraviolet actually needs to be absorbed. Oh my goodness, absorbed by the atmosphere. But you look so strange.
I am very.
We're live, by the way, just to let y'all know we are live.
Oh no!
I am a chemtrail conspiracist.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday Night Live. And hey, you normally see Claudia and I on Mondays, and Scott coming in and, visiting and bringing breaking news, of which this is why we're here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So last night, for everyone, I'm going to go ahead and pull the article up just so we can understand what we are talking about, folks. Let me go over here. Here we go. So the Express, and I just want to say thank you to the reporter that did this, because number one, they have given us the trio of chemtrail conspiracy theorists have threatened to blow the lid on what they believe is the biggest chemtrail bombshell of the century, after claiming to uncover alleged unclassified U.S. patent and trademark documents. Holy crap. Did y'all know that we're conspiracy theorists?
I don't think so. In fact, I believe that the conspirators are actually the military and government puppet masters who are lying to the public about chemtrails and keep saying that it's all about global warming. But actually, global warming is a hoax, because they're using particles that actually retain heat in the atmosphere and cause a greenhouse effect.
Exactly. Well, what got me about this, Scott, I'd love to get your take on this, is that they try to come in and debunk this, even showing pictures that, they're trying to say are contrails, which is ridiculous. And they're actually taking a poll. I wonder if the poll is still up.
Yeah, I noticed the poll. Yeah.
Let's see. I'll go ahead and vote. Look at this. We're still in a majority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So 57% of the world believes that this is more than just a conspiracy. So, Scott, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, me and Claudia, we were talking deeply about it for hours today. And we know that the chemtrailing exists. So, we could just put that to rest. There have been hundreds of people that have been in depth in the chemtrail so-called, quote, conspiracy, which it's not a conspiracy on our end. The conspiracy lies on the other end.
Yeah, I mean, we've got nothing. We're not making this happen. We're not, somehow behind it and, colluding.
Exactly. The more and more information that I've been digging up, and, this is not my first go around with chemtrails. Like I said, the last time we did our live stream, back in 2005 is when I really started to notice this chemtrailing in the skies. Didn't know much about it, did a lot of research on it. I started posting information all over Facebook about it. And in 2010, Facebook deleted my personal account. And I got no explanation whatsoever. So the more and more that I dug into it, it moved me back into the Planet X research and what is happening in our skies. Why are they doing this? And this is what me and Claudia were talking about today. So it's not a matter of, are they chemtrailing? We know that they are chemtrailing, but what are the true reasons why? Okay. Yeah. Geoengineering, I hate to use the word because it's really not geoengineering. I mean, yeah, they may try to play around with the weather, but I think as technology and time has gone on, they have learned to manipulate the weather. And there's multiple things that they are using the chemtrail for their purpose. And this is what we were discussing today. And naturally, I think number one, they want to decrease our view of the sky, of the atmosphere. But when they talk about man-made global warming, I do believe that is one of their main purposes. They are trying to heat up the planet. They are trying to keep the planet warm to an extent. Because why else would you do something like this? You're not trying to cool the planet down. You're trying to keep the planet warm.
Yeah.
And as far as our view of the sky goes, if we saw the sun, kind of decreasing in its energy and its visible light, what we see here on Earth, we would notice that. Billions of people around the world would notice this dimming sun. So therefore, that leads into the projection of artificial light onto the Earth. We see the rises in the UV. We discussed that the last time. But is our sun actually being affected by these stellar cores? Is our sun being affected so badly that they have to perform this type of geoengineering? Is this what they're actually doing? Are they literally trying to keep the planet warm because of the decrease in energy from our sun? I mean, if you think about it, what other reasons would they try to heat the planet up? Because that's exactly what they're doing. They're not cooling the planet. They're trapping all of that right here. At the same time, I also do believe that they are trying to reflect a lot of the radiation back into space. But I was just looking at the magnetopause a little while ago, and the entire Earth is consistently engulfed in this radioactivity.
Correct.
Now, we do have some periods where it kind of dissipates quite a bit, but as of lately, 2017, all of this year, we're seeing this bounce back of this radiation that literally makes its way around the bow shock and leads right back in and goes directly around the Earth. And we see it. I've shown everyone hundreds of times on the magnetopause model. So the big question is, why are they doing that? Why are they trying to trap the heat in? Now, as me and Claudia were discussing today, there are pros and cons. There are benefits for what they're doing, but there are also some significant consequences to what they're doing. So it's kind of like that old saying, you're damned if you do, and you're definitely damned if you don't.
Well, I'd like to, if the reporter is listening to this, I think what needs to be also addressed is that we're not just talking about the aerosol injection. And I'm scrolling patents here, and boy, this one's altering a region of the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
Did you read that? What the freak?
Yeah.
Yeah, it talks about the ionosphere and the magnetosphere, and that's what I've noticed as well. They found a way to manipulate space weather. In 1977, they already had a way for creating artificial aurora and enhanced geomagnetic storms. So you can imagine what they can do now. Basically, they can just create a geomagnetic storm out of nothing. The ionosphere is being manipulated, and we can see that this is being done because one of the results is that the regions of the poles would heat up. much more than the rest, because whatever you do in the magnetosphere and the ionosphere will be amplified at the magnetic poles. So if they're heating the ionosphere through all these injections of barium and so on, and cold plasma, what is going to happen is the Earth is going to heat up at the poles. And that's exactly what we're seeing happening.
Claudia, could we discuss this one? And Scott as well. I'm reading this. Here we're talking about particles, generation, electrical charge in aerosols, right?
Mm-hmm.
The last sentence in this one really caught my eye. The charge product also may be used for distributing mist, distributing ionic material in air, e.g., for a sense of well-being and for seeding clouds. What sense of well-being are they talking about?
The sense of well-being that you don't see differences in the light in the sky.
Thank you.
Because if you did, like I said back in 2016, Wayne, I told everybody back in 2016 in the middle of the summer, driving down, the main street in the town that I live in at 3:00 in the afternoon, there are no shadows. No shadows of people walking on the street, no shadows of my car driving, no shadows of anywhere. And everything looks like I'm under a studio light. So people are not understanding the differences in the light that they are living under. Again, people, look up in the sky, look at the color of the light that's being projected. It's white, pure white.
Dr. Albers, I really am intrigued. And in this last sentence here,
yes,
this increase in energy can cause ionization of neutral particles, which are then absorbed as part of the region, thereby increasing the charged particle density of the region. What? Can you break that down for laymen?
Basically, this is increased ionization of the ionosphere. It's usually done because of the ionized particles that come in the solar wind. So basically what they are doing is artificially creating that. When it means that the charge density increases, the electric currents increase. In other words, they are inducing currents in the ionosphere, which will then induce currents further down. They're doing all this artificially. So basically, they can heat up the mantle through what they are doing in the ionosphere. They're manipulating everything artificially through this.
So can I ask a question? Then I'm interpolating this in my head, and I'm thinking about weather now, and we're talking about their charging a positive charge particle density. Would that increase lightning storms?
Absolutely.
Definitely. Of course it will. This is where lightning actually comes from. It comes from the ionosphere. And like I said before, the natural way that the ionosphere gets charged is through the solar wind. But they're doing this artificially now. So there will, of course, all this lighting will occur. Now, that does not mean that we don't have these objects outside the atmosphere that are able to do this as well. But the thing is, they are doing it artificially and allowing us to think that maybe it's these objects, it could be these objects, but as we can see that they definitely have been doing this artificially for years. So this means that even if the sun dies, they could keep us on believing that the sun's out there. They could create geomagnetic storms. They could pretend that the sun is having CMEs, and life would go on. They would just pretend the sun is there because they can do everything artificially. Whatever heat is coming from inside the earth, they are finding more and more and better ways of retaining that heat, because the earth generates its own heat.
Yes.
And they're keeping that heat in through the particles they're putting in the atmosphere. And the fact that they are chemtrailing more and more suggests that perhaps the sun's even weaker and they need more of these particles. Also, they need to hide all the technology that's up there that's doing all this, simulating the sun, simulating the moon, etc.
Can we talk about then what's happening in India?
Yeah, another blazing heat wave once again, third year in a row.
Well, Pakistan, 123 degrees. Now, up in here, in this region here, they have been experiencing what could only be described as very unusual lightning storms. I think in one storm, I believe there was some 1,300 that were killed by lightning strikes. The report I was reading, they were getting 3,000 strikes per minute.
Oh my goodness.
Now, what's causing that? I mean, and then of course they have the huboos that they did not have of those. Those are the dust storms. And I know what dust does to the atmosphere as well. It will start charging the particles.
Yeah, well, the dust is nucleation centers for producing cloud condensation centers to produce clouds, and that will then lead to rain. And the charging actually occurs because our ionosphere is charged, so it's negatively charged. So there's a high negative charge at the top of the atmosphere, whilst the surface of the Earth is positively charged. So there's a potential across. And you know, the particles that move up there will be charged by the fact that it's more negatively charged up there through moving through the atmosphere. But the thing is, they have the ability, especially because our atmosphere is now so conductive because of all the metallic particles that they have injected into the atmosphere. And with the electromagnetic radiation that they have, they basically can manipulate anything. They can manipulate the jet stream. They can place some areas of the Earth separated from others. They can cause these areas to just circulate, move around in a circle and not move anywhere. They can stop rain from occurring in a certain region and thus create drought, because they can just manipulate the electromagnetic field. And what causes rain and the circulation of clouds is all an electromagnetic field that's all fed by the ionosphere. Through manipulating all this, they manipulate the weather. Basically, they can do whatever they want.
But again, remember, there are pros and cons to everything that they are doing.
Actually, I think they are mainly cons.
Yeah, but there are things that, okay, if you try and manipulate this or you try to block out that, well, okay, this is going to occur. Oh, what are we going to do now? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
The system is not perfect. Man is definitely not perfect. They definitely have advanced technology that we don't actually know about, but that advanced technology is still somewhat out of control.
Yeah.
They haven't harnessed it completely yet.
Yeah.
That's the scary part.
This is how it started. It started over 100 years ago, because what happened was they started producing electricity from coal. But the pollution that came out as a result of that caused droplets of rain to form that were too small to fall as rain. So the pollution was actually stopping rainfall all over the world, wherever this pollution was going. So they, instead of finding ways to produce electricity without using coal, they found a way around it, and that was to release the steam, that part of the steam that was being used to create electricity, into the atmosphere, and that way create artificial clouds. This is how it started. It started almost right after the Industrial Revolution started. So that was the first thing, because they wanted to keep on making money out of burning coal and fossil fuels. So that was the first thing. And then it developed from there. But if that had not happened, most of the Earth would turn into a desert, because there was no rain. So after that, they started finding other ways of producing rain, of not having rain. And then the military took over, because the military is always looking for ways to have an advantage over other countries. So they started saying, oh, but if we do this, we can stop the rain for other places that we don't like and other people we don't like. And then eventually, it seems that they decided that the real enemy is the fact that we have so many people on the face of the earth. And now they are fighting against their own population. And they're using these methods, which are basically weapons of mass destruction. They're using weather to destroy regions of the earth.
Well, I'd just like to point out to the reporter, so we have a patent here that was designed specifically to suppress the formation of contrails. So if they had the patent in 1988, you would think that they would have deployed this. Then we go down, this one right here, the stratospheric Welsh-Bosch seeding global warming.
Yes, this is the one that I found very interesting, because this is the one that says that if you put the particles that they have put into the atmosphere, which are metallic particles, that's why we have this haze, which reflect light back to outer space. But what light does it reflect? It reflects visible light, not infrared. Infrared is what the Earth emits from its surface. And that's the light that, when retained, causes a greenhouse effect. It does absolutely nothing for that. It also does nothing for ultraviolet light, because ultraviolet light has to actually be absorbed by the atmosphere in order to be stopped.
And as you were talking, here's process for absorbing ultraviolet radiation. Patent issued in February 1994. Surprise!
And look what they are using. They're using melanin dispersoids. And this is where it comes in, where they start using things like polymers in the atmosphere, because these particles, the metallic particles, don't do it.
So I'm trying to put the story together, how we are conspiracy theorists when we're merely looking at, and by the way, Scott, I want to defend you on this, because the reporters seem to be almost mocking that these were non-government patents. These are all non-government patents. I haven't read one that is a government patent.
Absolutely. And he really blew the lid off of his story, and it blew back, and he ate crow whenever he contacted the United States Patent Office. And did you read the response that the U.S. Patent Office gave this fool?
Let's see what they said here.
If you go all the way to the bottom, and he quotes what they told him, and he kind of leaves it at that. I mean, listen.
A spokesperson for the United States Patent and Trademark Office told Express.co.uk that claims cannot be verified without a patent number, but the Patent Office does at times handle government documents. We go on. Paul, I think I know. Okay, said Chapter 0100 of the Manual of Patent Examination Procedure does outline specific statutory rules on secrecy, access, and national security. So yes, there would be circumstances where the Patent Office would handle applications under secrecy order and or bearing national security markings.
And then he goes on, but despite the bizarre claims presented by the trio of conspiracists, what the hell is bizarre? First things first. Okay, we are not the first three people to openly discuss this. I forget the lady's name, Rosalind. I forget her last name. She appeared in front of the United Nations years ago. I have the video. She appeared in front of the United Nations. She's from California. She had been documenting the chemtrails for years, air quality, water samples, the whole 9 yards, and gave the lengthy speech in front of the UN. Oh, but what? She's a conspiracist?
Apparently
Okay.
so.
You know, and the guy goes on to try to poke fun at, these private companies.
Yeah.
Listen, the private companies include all of the world's major airlines because they are being paid to flick the switch on the damn chemtrail components in their planes. We are not the first people to discuss this.
Well, what gets me, go ahead, Scott. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm starting to get heated because I have, over the past year, I have emailed the UK Express tabloid, okay, numerous times, giving them the right to interview both Claudia and I. And let us lay it on the table, all of it, exclusive. I even sent an email to their editor. I sent an email to everybody on their staff, every email that I can get from their website. Not once did they return my email. Not once.
Yeah, and I like to take issue with Ken here. Ken, if you'd like to come in, and we'd love to have a intelligent scientific discussion with you, because I don't like this when it says that the whole contrail conspiracy was debunked by numerous scientists studying the chemical composition of the atmosphere. Who is the scientist? What is the empirical data that they are looking at? Who generated the data? And where is that data? Secondly, to say that we argued conspiracists ignore the empirical evidence presented to them. I've not been presented any evidence other than what we have done as nothing more than researchers looking at the evidence. Now, I still want to know, we're looking at, this is page 6 of 10 of patent after patent after patent. What are we missing here as the three conspiracists on this story? I mean, Scott, you're apparently the bullseye target of this, because
I'm glad
you're the master conspiracy.
I'm glad I am. I'll paint that target bullseye right on my forehead. And I've told these people before, if you want to talk about this, you want to interview us, whatever you want to do, let's do it. Because the bottom line is, people are seeing it more and more around the world, and there have been others over the years that have gone out there, put themselves out there, and they've talked about this passionately. Okay, we know it's being conducted. We know that they are putting bad things into the air.
Aqueous.
The bottom line is, why?
Yeah, and the other thing is, I have an article where they actually measured the ultraviolet radiation that's reaching the surface. And it's more than is supposed to arrive from the sun at the top of the atmosphere. So if they are interested in reflecting ultraviolet radiation back into space, how can the amount of radiation now reaching the surface be more than if we had no ozone layer whatsoever?
Listen, I'm this aqueous polymer. All right, so I'm reading this, and what the hell? It says that the polymer. I mean, sorry, but what's getting me, folks? This reaction forms a gelatinous substance which precipitated to the surface below. Whoa, time out.
Yeah,
I've
read this as well. Yeah, and these polymers are very toxic. They produce lesions in the skin when they touch your skin.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Listen, I got a video
about that as well.
I got a video that was just tipped off to me, and I think the video was sometime in 2017. Young guy down in, I believe it might be South Florida. He started documenting the chemtrails passing over his house, and every single day, his yard, the roof of his house, his car, covered in these very, very lightweight particles. So he was documenting it with his video camera. The chemtrail planes were all flying over. And then as he panned away with the camera, and I have the video, as he pans away with the camera, he starts talking about these particulates all falling all over the place. And he videotapes it, and he talks within the video about these particles literally floating down everywhere. And it was persistent every single day. Now, remember when I told you about these planes not appearing because their transponders are off and they're not going to be showing up on the flight radar websites? Okay, before I even talked about that, there are retired pilots, not commercial pilots, but just your regular run-of-the-mill, oh, let's buy an airplane, your little, what do they call them? Your private pilots. This guy goes on to start documenting the airline companies that are being paid to spray the chemtrails. And the man who narrates the short video documenting this knows about, he talks about the altitude of the plane, the relative humidity, the distance behind the plane and the chemtrail. The disbursement is coming directly from nozzles attached to the wings.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as he states, how can you have their little so-called ice particles spewing out of 4 jet engines as exhaust?
Exactly. And that shows you it's not contrails, because a contrail would be formed by what's coming from the exhaust of the engine, not from another nozzle. So the fact that these nozzles are there and the chemtrails are coming out of these nozzles shows you it's not contrails. Many people have seen these nozzles on the planes.
So they're telling me that this is a contrail. This is over my house. I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe I'm missing something.
I'm sorry, but any scientist that says that there is no evidence is worse than blind. He's lying. Because anybody can see that these are not contrails, because contrails would not disperse and get wider. They would always stay a small little trail. But these ones spread out.
I mean,
contrails.
Again, I'm trying to classify us as the 3 conspiracists here.
Something like that.
I mean, how are we manufacturing that? I mean, that is just crazy. And again, you can see the natural clouds. That ain't natural.
No, there's no way that's natural. Absolutely not. These are not normal clouds. Normal clouds don't look like straight lines or woven patterns or grids. And this is what we are getting. It's absolutely abnormal. And the fact that they keep on saying that it's contrails, that it's normal, that it's natural, it just means they are worse than liars.
So
I believe they are lies.
Yeah, they're liars, plain and simple. Plain and simple. They're damn liars. And listen, I'm no environmentalist. Okay, that's where this really, really started. If you go back and you start to look, where did the chemtrail conspiracy begin? It began with environmentalists. Worried about the air, worried about the trees, plant life, animal life, water. They're taking samples. They're finding barium and cilantro. What's that?
Aluminum.
Aluminum, and what's the other one? Strontium.
Yep.
They're finding all of
And thorium, radioactive thorium. They find it in there.
And I want to point out that this, sir, is this is expanding out. You can actually see the bellows as it continues to react to the atmosphere. This is not conspiracy. This is a layman looking up in the sky saying, what the hell are you doing?
But this is obviously cloud seeding, because what the planes are releasing is tiny particles that then turn into condensation nuclei. So the clouds, this cloud formation around the particles. This shows that what the planes are releasing is particles, which then lead to condensation, the formation of clouds around the particles.
I'm going to tell you a little story here, Wayne, that I just learned 2 days ago. It's going to blow your mind, and it's going to blow everybody else's mind also. What do you know, or what have you heard about private satellite companies, imaging satellite companies?
Well, I know there's, what happened here? Are we still live?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because there we go. Tell me.
So I come to find out that some of these imaging satellite companies that have actually put up super high-tech imaging satellites above our planet, and there's quite a few of them. Guess who their biggest client is exclusively? Some of the biggest world governments on this planet.
Of course.
Number one would be the United States of America, the UK, and Canada. And oh, what did I uncover today? See, that's why we're delayed a little bit on releasing this book, because some new information just came about. But what I came across today was the Canadian Air Force training manual on chemtrailing. Not contrailing, chemtrailing. This was publicized and archived all over the internet years ago when this was uncovered. And guess what they did? They scrubbed the entire internet of that manual. But guess what? You can't scrub the whole internet and get rid of it, because people have downloaded it. People have copies of it. We know that it's happening.
Yeah.
What is the main reason? So instead of wasting our time trying to figure out, why they're doing it, we have to start looking a little bit further outside the box. We know it's destroying our environment. It's very harmful for people. But what are they really hiding? I mean, let's be realistic here. Number one, it definitely clouds our view, no pun intended. It definitely clouds our view of up above. We can't clearly see out there. They talk about chemtrailing at night. I have so much information, tucked away that we're going to be putting into this book. And, he kind of made fun of the quote, we're going to blow the lid off of this.
Yeah.
But when I meant we're going to blow the lid off of this, we're going to blow the lid off of it because I'm not an environmental activist like these other people were in the beginning that were, exposing what they were doing. So we're going to have a new twist to this, because we really want to know what they're doing and why. And we're slowly figuring it out. There are these imaging companies that have very, very sophisticated satellites up above, constantly taking these high-resolution photographs of the Earth at all times. I found out that one of the main reasons why we never see any of these photographs is because the government exclusively buys all of their data.
This is
they had no choice because the company would make it public.
Well, this is what gets me. We are not environmentalists. We do not hold degrees in that. Dr. Albers is the only one that actually, I know, holds the degrees here. That
but not in environmental science.
Yeah, but we can observe. And I don't like it when someone tries to belittle my intelligence.
Exactly.
Because that is intellectual elitism, and it's dishonest journalism.
Oh yeah, the UK is the UK Express is a tabloid. Maybe one of the reasons why they didn't get back to me after the multiple emails is because I made fun of them in the emails. If you want to really get down to the science of what Dr. Albers and I are investigating, then come ask us. Yeah. Don't put out these half-assed articles.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of them are pretty much half-assed. Oh, Nibiru crashing into the Earth on November 18th. It's every single week. Tens of millions of people hit their website and blah, blah, blah. They're not really interested in getting at the truth. They're just interested in clicks, clickbait.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, anyone that looks at my channel would see that this is an intellectual channel. It's philosophy. It's science. It's religion. It's not conspiracy theories. We're not the ones out there touting that the rapture is coming on such and such a date. What we're saying, I know for myself, I'm just observing. And I have a very smart friend who's a PhD.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other scientists out there that have they become quite outspoken about what is happening to our skies, what is happening to our air. And getting back to this so-called debunking report, I had a chance to read the report. Okay, it's all funded. So if I'm going to give you government funding for your research, then you are going to tell me what I want to hear, not the truth, or else I'm going to cut your funding.
The borrower is always subservient to the lender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's right.
Absolutely.
Wasn't it the Merchant of Venice that the pound of flesh that was going to be required?
Mm-hmm.
Just saying it,
Yeah, but Wayne, what upsets me the most is that scientists to have a responsibility to do ethical research and report their findings will say something like this person that's quoted on that newspaper article. Ken,
yes.
And atmospheric scientists that's saying that other people are ignoring empirical results. How can he say a thing like that? It is unbelievable that a scientist can actually say something like that when any person who looks up every single day can look at and observe empirical results with their own eyes.
You have to be a nitwit to not see the grid patterns in our skies.
And I'm not making fun of this man. Listen, I appreciate you writing the article. I really do. It's just
the article's fine. What I cannot believe is that a scientist or a man of science, is he actually a man of science? How can he say something like that?
Oh, I believe it.
We see grid patterns. Listen, they love putting X's and pentagrams. I mean, these cats are some really weird people out there. I mean, I figured, well, I guess they're doing whatever they're doing. I think what draws me to the subject is that I'd like to know why. What's the objective here? Why is it that they will not tell the world population about what's going on?
That's me and Claudia had this discussion today. You know, and I
Because
think,
it's bad.
yeah, and I think
Because it's bad.
they've gotten to the point where, yeah, things are so bad, things spiraled out of control. You know, like the governments have to keep everything secret, but they use our tax dollars to do it. Blah 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 blah. You know, it's ridiculous. We released the book today.
Yes, I led the link.
And published it for the Sun Simulator, because people say, "Oh, that's impossible. That's impossible." Get the hell out of here. We have photographs that were captured from, excuse me, the International Space Station that freaking show an object out there with a freaking umbrella shape to it. I'm starting to stutter because I'm getting mad because the photographic evidence is there. It's there. Nobody's explaining it. How can you look at these photographs and say that is our sun? I mean, right now, I would love to share them with the audience and let them see what I've seen. I've published them before, months ago, but there's a lot of people that are now coming on board that need to be brought up to speed. There's something else also. Someone sent me a photograph the other day, and they said, "Wow, Scott, you have to see this picture that was taken from the International Space Station." I discussed this with Claudia today, this photograph, but I haven't even showed it to her yet. And it is literally taken from the International Space Station and looking directly out at the sun, what's supposed to be the sun. And let me just share the photograph, and you just take a good look at it, and you tell me what comes to mind, what very odd things you see in this photograph from the space station, the sun shining down on the Earth. You just tell me what you think of this picture, and you're going to see something that appears in everyone's photographs for the last several years documenting the skies. So you let me know what you think of this photograph.
You can go.
Let me grab it here.
Yep.
You guys able to see that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Okay. Now, I've watched the space station live footage. I mean, a lot. Okay. Now, you tell me what odd things you see in this photograph.
Oh my goodness, Scott. I mean, obviously that's not the sun. Look at it. And look at the reflection that it's causing on the Earth. You know, it's obviously an object in orbit around the Earth. It's very bright. And it's reflecting off the planet. You can even see the pink around it. It obviously has some kind of pink plasma around it because it's producing that sort of circular sort of plasma or
look at the reflection
around it.
Look at the detailed reflection
on the
ocean and the big round pink lens flare that everybody sees in their cameras from time to time taking pictures. Look at the centralized beam of light directly bouncing off of the ocean.
Absolutely.
When have you ever seen the space station photographs like this?
That's amazing.
This was a 1 in a million shot,
and
I got to hand it to the person that grabbed this.
Wow. This is amazing. This shows you that that's the simulator. That cannot be the sun. The sun would not reflect off the Earth like that. There has to be an object that's much smaller than the sun and much closer to the Earth than the sun. The sun is 100 times larger than the Earth. And the light that comes off the sun illuminates the whole part of the atmosphere that faces the sun. It doesn't cause a reflection like that. There's no way.
What do you think about that picture, Wayne?
Again, I look at this and I marvel because it's like Claudia said, the sun is very, very big. And although we are 94 million miles away, that reflection is amazing. It really is.
But that's what I actually wrote an article where I said there has to be one simulator that is in orbit. It has a period of 48 hours so that it can move with respect to the surface of the Earth at the rate of 24 hours per day. And I even calculated what the altitude is. I think it's 12.5 thousand miles, but I'm not sure anymore. But it's at the altitude that it will have a 48-hour period.
Let me ask you something. In the area of that reflection, do you think the temperatures would be elevated where that reflection is on the Earth, in that piece of land, that piece of ocean? Just like using a magnifying glass when you were a kid to burn a piece of paper.
The thing is, we don't know what radiation it's emitting.
Well, I'm talking about the amount of heat that would be here compared to here.
They have magnifying lenses in the atmosphere that make it look larger from the surface of the Earth, because I think it would look quite small from the surface of the Earth, and we've seen it in some of the photographs.
Man, that's a pinpoint right there.
Yeah, the magnifying lenses make it look larger, but definitely it's definitely illuminating that part of the Earth more than others. So yes, the radiation would be absorbed and heat that part of the Earth definitely more than the other parts.
I always think about the ant in the magnifying glass.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't
just.
It's like someone is
that's
getting
amazing.
Cooked. I mean, how else do you say that?
I need to write an article just on that photograph.
Now, this is a photograph that was taken from some footage of the International Space Station, maybe less than 6 months ago, and a small piece of video before they cut it off. And one of my subscribers and followers, Gary Garcia, he actually was screen capturing the International Space Station footage when the sun simulator, the sun was coming up over the horizon, but kind of on the side of the Earth from the perspective of the space station. And it was pink, bright pink. Am I going the wrong way here?
Yeah, I've got one I've got a lot of these.
Here, this is the original
Anybody that wants us to believe that that's the sun is out of their minds. How can the sun look like that?
Yeah.
As Scott's showing, it's got this hexagonal or octagonal shape to it. There is no way the sun can be like that. It has to be a device, an artificial device. The sun is a natural object. It's a sphere. That's not a sphere. I mean, does anybody know what the difference is between the sphere and a hexagonal? Because that's what it comes down to.
Look at the definition in this. You could literally see the lines in this this octagonal shape. It's kind of off a little bit. It's a little longer on this side. But okay, so since when does the sun look like this?
Exactly. There is no way this is the sun.
There's no atmosphere to distort it. Now we're not talking about atmospheric phenomenon.
And even if there was an atmosphere, there's no way the atmosphere would cause the sun to look like this. There's no way.
Look at and this is inverted. Here is your centralized light. Right here, coming out of something other than it's not the sun.
No.
And then during this video footage, it was only a matter of less than 15 seconds, and they cut the feed.
I actually have some video of one of the simulators that they're testing on the ISS. And it goes right with what you're showing here, Scott. It's quite remarkable when you look at this.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane that people think that we're making this up talking about a sun simulator.
Well, check this out. I'm going to take your screen. Do you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, watch. This is a simulator. I don't know what this is, but whatever it is, it's high powered. But
yeah,
watch
it's
for
a plasma
yourself.
beam generator, it looks like to me.
And here's where it
Or
started to
laser.
malfunction.
Look at that.
Now
My
watch this.
It's actually, it seems to be working almost like a reflector. It's reflecting the beam that hits it.
This is the device.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Right here, folks. This is what so often you're seeing. And I know some people don't want to believe it, but let me go on.
Look at that.
There it is.
Wow.
Did you just see that?
Mm-hmm.
So they can actually, this device, it's apparently made in Canada. They have these very interesting solar shields out there. When they put this thing on, watch this.
Wow. My goodness.
Now watch what happens on the IS. We just saw the sun go down, right?
Yes.
Let me just get right back there, or what they say is, there it is, right there. Now watch this. So it's supposed to be in total darkness. Watch what happens. Where's the sun coming up? The time code hasn't changed on this. Here is the device. I'll go back. Pay attention right here. And look what they do.
Whoa.
Wow.
You know, and I've said all along for the last 2 years that the International Space Station definitely has something to do with the sun simulators. There is more than one.
Yes. I know people say they want to criticize us, but what do you do with this? I don't know.
That's the thing. No one, they just want us to believe, no, we're not sure what we're saying or doing. And so we should just be quiet. That's what they're trying to do. They try to put doubt in people's minds. And then to cause them to stop talking. But there's no doubt whatsoever. These people, the so-called scientists that keep saying that we conspiracy theorists and we don't know what we're talking about and we ignoring empirical evidence, they're the ones that are looking really bad now because they are liars.
So, I've played this video many, many times, and, I challenge any of the naysayers, let me just get this, to tell us what this is. Give me 1 second, guys and ladies. Let me just share this with everyone. And then we'll kind of get this, where am I? Give me 1 second. I am a little lost. I got too many windows open. I do. It's like, where am I, man? So let me get this. So here's our device. I mean, what is it?
Yeah, I remember when you posted this
So
video.
we've seen this, I no one's ever told me what this thing is. Whatever it is, it's hot.
Yeah, it is. There's like a smoke trail coming up on both sides. I think I've seen this before. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, this is not normal. There it is. This is
Not
when
normal at all. It obviously, it's definitely not the sun. And then when we start trying to work out how it works and so on, that's a little bit more complicated. We don't even know. I think they have smaller ones and larger ones,
but this goes with your photo, Scott, perfectly. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
It's
and again, we're not the only three people on this planet that are uncovering this information and that are asking these questions. People don't seem to want to believe the fact that there is an object or several of these devices up there that are simulating the sun. Look at the intense sunburn that people got in 2016, 2017, and then just now reported a few days ago during some of these heat waves that are exploding in different parts of the world, but they're in centralized areas. Just yesterday, this heat explosion occurred in a very small portion of the East Coast. New York City, Washington, D.C., northern New Jersey. Okay, the temperatures were 93 degrees in New York, and I'm about 500, 600 miles, 700 miles, whatever, from New York, and my temperatures were in the mid to high 70s.
That's nuts.
What was baking them?
I think it's these devices. Listen, they can call me conspiracy theorist. Listen, I've got these, by the way, on multiple hard drives in safe areas because I've got almost 2 terabytes. The cameras that are no longer working on the ISS. They no longer show those feeds. Now, this is the one I challenge everyone that's tried to debunk this. You can actually see the astronauts, their equipment right here. They're filming this as well as what they're watching. Whatever this is going on, and it's retrograding, and I still to this day do not know what's going on up in.
Yeah, sorry, Wayne.
Yeah.
What I see, though, you see the beams seem to be in front of...
Right here?
The Earth?
Yeah.
That must be the Earth there, I suppose.
Yes.
The beams are in front. That lower beam is in front, and the object seems to be almost behind it.
Yes.
So
it's
this
going
would
the
mean
opposite
that the
way.
beams are
It
coming
is going
from where
retro.
the camera is.
And look at the camera right here. They're filming this thing.
Oh my goodness.
This is the thing when you look at it, you can see their camera, they're filming it as well.
Is that the curvature of the Earth there?
Yes.
Because now we're actually seeing the object.
Watch what happens as it goes behind.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. I'm contending that, they got pictures of where people see 2 suns, and they say, well, that's an atmospheric, phenomenon that can be explained, but I don't know what this is.
We are explaining it. Simple as that.
And you can see it now going behind the Earth, or I guess you could say it was a simulated hologram.
But
I don't know.
It's not actually, because you can see the dark outline. Even if that is the curvature of the Earth, we can see the dark outline in front of it. So what is it that we are actually seeing? Is some kind of simulation, the whole thing?
I don't know. And, look what happens. Do you see did you just see that? It's like it pulsed, and it's pulsing right now and watch what happens here. This gets bizarre. And look how it begins to illuminate the whole curvature of the Earth.
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, this is just, does that not look like a comet to y'all?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, most
Okay.
definitely.
All right. And there we go. And we have our second setting of the sun, but this one's in retrograde.
Yes.
Don't know. Oh,
My goodness.
You know, I just made another recent discovery, and I haven't made it public to anybody, you know, any of our followers on YouTube or Facebook, because it wasn't as clear as I would like it to be. But I'd like to show it to you. I'd like to get your opinion. This
Yes,
is
sir.
the last 5 days of April. And this is captured from the Secchi imaging. And it clearly shows, to my eyes, a massive object moving straight through space. And you have Venus, Mars, and Mercury clearly visible. And you can see this object over the course of, I think, about 7 to 8 days, moving straight across, just like that.
I like to
I
see
have
it.
the still photographs, which are more clear. It was visible on the SREM. Claudia, you want to explain to everybody what that SREM actually picks up?
Yeah, the SRAM detects high energy particles, protons, electrons, and heavy ions, mainly helium nuclei. And so it doesn't detect light. It doesn't detect electromagnetic radiation of any kind. It detects particles. So you cannot have lens flares in it.
Yeah,
They
how's
just
a
will
lens
not
flare?
occur.
I was going to say, how does a lens flare affect heavy particles?
Exactly. It cannot happen.
Yeah, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go ahead and just widen this out a little bit. In this image, I mean, because the SREM is always distorted, you can see this object right here. And you have to stare at it for a little bit to pick it out.
I see it.
Yeah.
But this right here is I believe that's Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And in the actual video, way up here in the upper left-hand corner, you will see Venus come in, and again, this huge loop forming and being sucked back in to Venus. And then over here, you'll see a large loop. Now, this is zoomed in. This object is obviously further away from Mercury. You know, it's not right up against the planet. And it's a little blurry, but you can see.
Yeah, we could see that circular outline, definitely.
Okay,
Clearly
it's just not there. It's just not there for one damn day. It's there for 8 days, and it moves across the screen. Here is another screenshot, crystal clear, and you could see 1, 2, 3 other smaller spheres as it passes behind Mercury.
Actually, I think it's Mars. But
Mars.
Yeah, it's definitely something there. And the other thing we see in these images is that the amount of debris filling the inner solar system is just increasing all the time, because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing clouds of gas and debris with these circular objects because it's stellar cores. There's hundreds of them that seem to have invaded the soul, at least 100, if not more.
Here's
and
the
there's
actual
all this debris, and they are amongst this debris, and they giving us images only every hour or so, and they making the definition low so we don't see them. But yet there is so much going on in images like this.
Yeah, here's the image date, 4/26, 2018.
Yeah.
And it moves completely across the sky. Well, this is the sun over here. And you can see the Birkeland current line for Mars.
Yeah.
And you can see this bad boy.
Yeah.
Right there. So that's what they're hiding. This is the main issue of what is out there. Nice halo there.
Yep.
Yeah, and you see, we first found out that these things are in the sun's corona, but I don't think they're just in the sun's corona. They are all over the solar system. I think all the planets have captured some of these objects, these dead stars. And I think it's very likely that that plasma loop we see from Venus is due to one of these objects that has been captured by Venus. And we know that Jupiter now has 69 satellites, possibly increasing all the time. It used to have 16. So if Jupiter gained a whole lot of these objects, and likely they are all the same type of object, these stellar cores, because they're still coming in, I think.
Yeah.
Because I actually discovered what these are. I sent you some of these articles, Wayne, where I said that what happens to stars is they are born at the galactic nucleus, and then they are flung outwards. And as they arrive at their outermost position, they die. And then they come back towards the galactic nucleus as dead stars. They're no longer emitting light. And as time goes on, they become weaker and weaker. Their gravitational energy decreases. And what I mean by gravitational energy is the gravitational interaction with other objects decreases in strength.
Yes.
So they dead stars. So what the sun must have encountered was dead stars coming back towards the galactic nucleus for reabsorption. And instead they got attracted to the sun. That's why they came in. It's hundreds, if not thousands of them. And the Earth has these objects orbiting it as well. And they're absorbing energy from the Earth. They're emitting light. There's a whole lot of them, and they don't want us to know.
Well, I'm convinced that there are things out there. I mean, I have seen them for myself. I've photographed them, and this is no doubt about it.
Yeah, I wanted to play this on a different player because I had that one in 4G.
You see, there's an object there because you can see the flash of that ejection there on the right-hand side. Oh, and you see that's a large object moving in towards the sun, and it's not transparent. People sometimes think it's transparent. Why we see things within the circle is because these things are between the object and the detector. It's not a transparent object. It's a huge, big object. We've been seeing them for years in these images.
I've got them. I've got my Secchi,
Yeah.
Listen, this is regular. This thing has what I am beginning now to believe is becoming a much more concentric orbit.
Yeah. So this is one of the stellar cores. Some of them are absolutely huge and larger than the sun. But that's also because the older they are, the lower their gravitational attraction even to their own matter, so they would grow in size.
Look at that.
So you can, I know it's hard to see, but with a trained eye, I'm very used to viewing the Secchi and stereo and all of the footages, and I can pick these things out. And the time spans, again, 8 days. Okay, and that object starts out over here and it makes its way all the way across. In the meantime, up here in the corner, you see Venus with this huge loop being sucked back into it.
Yeah, don't forget the sun produces plasma loops. They are much, much smaller than the size of the sun. That huge loop is much larger than Venus. There is no way Venus can produce such a loop. And don't forget, the fact that we can see it means there's plasma, ionized plasma filling up the loop. And the only way you can get that loop formation is if there's a huge magnetic field there. Venus does not even generate its own magnetic field. How can it produce a loop like that? It's not, I don't think it's Venus. I think it's one of these dead stars that are orbiting Venus and it's absorbed enough energy. It's now able to produce, it has its own ionized plasma. It's acting a lot like a star can do, because these things are stars. And after they absorb some energy, they start being able to do all kinds of things again.
Hey, hold on 1 second. There, you have one person in the live chat by the name of Great White Hunter. He's leaving a comment, says, Scott can't ban me here, I hope. Well, listen, for anybody who is in the live chat that is a moderator, if Mr. Great White Hunter gets out of line, ban him. There you go, buddy. Thank you very much.
All right.
Trolls.
Well, we got the playbook on them. Go and watch The Art of Deception. It'll tell you the playbook. So,
yeah. I mean, Wayne, in your eyes, do you actually see that object moving across?
Yeah, let me tell you, I'm like you.
I see it.
I've had people try to slam me on this, but then again, I say, well, where did you get your training from? I don't think that I've seen anyone from SETI. I contacted the public information officer with the U.S. Naval Observatory. And you know what she told me? She says, we put it up there for you, the public, to determine what you want to see. So, one earthquake struck here.
What the hell?
There you go. That's pretty.
What was that? That was Dutch.
Yeah. So, listen, I just want to let everyone, this is a good community here, and we respect everyone. So the trolls try to come in, we're going to smother them with love. You got that right, Nicolette. By the way, I just want to give a shout out to this group, Claudia and Scott. Last week we helped Warrior Princess out, and folks, we exceeded our goal for the food pantry. We raised well over $500. I think when I last spoke to a Warrior Princess, it was probably getting close to $600, maybe $700. So thank you all. Thank you so very much. So anyway, folks, that's it.
This is the HI-1, same footage, and you can actually see it. Barely. And this is engulfed in a massive cloud of dust and gases. But you can clearly see it right where my cursor is. And you could see the cloud of dust moving away from it. It's moving through it.
Yeah.
And you can catch it right there.
Well, you know what this tells me? We're still finding out. This is a crowded neighborhood.
It's getting worse because every time I haven't looked at SETI images in a long time. And when I looked at it again, I thought, I'm shocked by how much the debris has increased.
Yes.
And I know where the debris comes from because the stellar cores shed their outer layers when they arrive at the sun.
Hey,
we see the blue one do that.
You want to hear something good going back to the chemtrails real quick while I have this up there? Listen to this gentleman. Oops, I have him muted.
2 inches on the rear, took off. This is not the aircraft, but this is a AirTran Boeing 717-200, 2 inches on the rear, took off from Jacksonville to Atlanta. It took an hour and a half to go 300 miles. And here's why. It came due south, went around Gainesville, went back due north, and landed in Atlanta. Air Trans TRS 9100, altitude of 37,000 feet. Record shows that the relative humidity at that altitude is less than 20%. No conditions for persistent contrails.
No conditions for persistent contrails.
Oh my goodness.
You would see another aerosolized persistent contrail.
All right, so there's our evidence.
Or there was a bubble in the aerosol.
There is just so much evidence that it's
Yes.
overwhelming. There
It
is
is.
just
How much do you think?
irrefutable, overwhelming evidence that this is occurring.
Click on the
If anybody tries to even say that it's not happening, I think we should just
This is not the air.
ignore them because they are
Yeah.
obviously lying.
I'd agree. I absolutely
Anybody
agree.
can tell by
Watch
looking
this.
up that this is happening.
At about 1 p.m.,
And it's happening every single day.
unmistakable north-south aerosol operation over South Florida that has drifted with a cirrus level flow out into the Atlantic as the day progresses. These are not chemtrails. Instead, they are large volume aerosol plumes, or LVAP. This technique is increasingly used to dump aerosols in much larger volumes than chemtrails alone could provide. A ground observer in Southeast Florida posted a video that captures this event early in the morning. This is evidence that the large volume dumps were deployed under cover of darkness before sunrise. The observer describes these unusual clouds and goes on to show particulates raining down from the sky like ash from an incinerator or coal ash. Links to the original video can be found in the description box.
Well,
And this is where
There
you'll
you go.
see.
So it's natural.
This is where you'll see this raining down.
The sun halo going, right?
Oh, the sun halo.
yep. Well, there we go.
Up here, here's the part where it's raining down.
This is Florida, people. It's not Wisconsin. Nothing's blooming still in the winter in Florida. These aren't bugs. They're not space orbs. This is bullshit falling from the sky.
There you go.
So, Mr. Barack Obama, the environmental climate president, this is the condition he left our planet in, with stuff actually falling from the sky. It's so polluted.
Well, I think the
Cut it off
evidence
right
is very
there
clear.
because,
South Florida snow.
the guy starts swearing.
Yeah. I bet he does.
Yeah. He starts getting pretty heated, because this is falling on his house, all over his car.
Breathing it.
Yeah, he's witnessing it on a daily basis. And we see the different techniques that they're using. So if they want to create something like this, like the gentleman was saying in the beginning of that video, they're doing it at night.
Yeah.
So when they do these big disbursements at night, from a satellite, you can see it. You
Well, I can see it
clearly
just walking outside at night. You can see him.
Yeah.
Well, this has gone a little bit longer than I anticipated, but I think it was needed to be. And I think we've stated our point. Let's just see if they decide to do another article.
Yeah, let them follow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put myself on pause and come back. Why? Okay, anyway. All right. Dr. Albers, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. Scott, appreciate you coming on. I was quite taken aback when I saw the article last night. I went, well,
I know.
yeah. I went, well, there you go. Folks, I left a link for the book down there. So when can expect the one on the chemtrails coming out?
I've put it together. I added some things about the patents today. I sent it back to Scott. He's got to do some work on it now.
All right, Scott. Well, there you go. Scott, you have your list to do. Well, I just want to thank everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, Brian. Thank you to all the moderators. Thank you for everyone. JH, thank you. Tomorrow night, I'm going to have Matt Hatter on. He actually does Bible codes. And I thought that that's going to be real interesting to see what he has found out. And then, Claudia, I'll see you on Monday night.
Yes, I'll see you.
And Scott, if they decide to write another article, let's do this again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they will. They've already written one about Claudia. They've pretty much stayed away from me. I don't know why. I've been willing to speak with their so-called journalists. I've offered them exclusive interviews with both Claudia and myself. Listen, one of the last emails that I sent them, Wayne, I sent them 30 photographs of the captures that we've had from Soho and Stereo and Secchi. Undeniable. I sent them photographs of this object captured on the cactus, coronagraph imaging. No response. So when I send the evidence and I put it on your desk, and you do nothing about it but go back to writing tabloid journalism, what do you expect?
Yep.
So write another report. Put us out there again. Bring more people to us.
Well, we'll treat them good.
Thank you. Thank you, UK Express.
Well, all right. All right, folks, have yourselves a good weekend. It's Friday night. I know it's getting late where y'all are at. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Scott, for all your work, my friend. You're one of the best researchers. I appreciate that. And Claudia, it goes without saying.
Okay. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you for having us. This was fun.
This was fun.
Yeah.
I like being your favorite student,
Oh, good.
One thing, I was talking with Claudia today, and we know that there's a lot of other famous physicists out there in the world, in past history. But right now, I asked Claudia this afternoon, can you name just one famous living physicist? Can anybody?
I don't know, Stephen Hawkins.
So now whenever you hear the word physicist and you're encompassed into this aspect of truth, who is the most notable and well-known physicist right now on this planet? I looked up the list of the top 20. Claudia's never heard of any of them. They're all living. I've never heard of any of them. Who do you think of? I think of Dr. Claudia Albers.
Thanks.
That's the one I know of.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both. All right. All right, folks. Appreciate it. All right, my friends. All right. Y'all have a good one.
Epico here, Khrushchevskoy.